This recording was originally posted in 2018 as a private social media live. It has been edited to protect the wives who participated. I chose to repost this video because it contains an important conversation. Resuming intimacy.
Resuming intimacy is not an easy topic to talk about. A lot of times we don't talk about it with our spouses, but it is part of being a wife and it's much needed. So Angelina has been a nurse for over 25 years. I have known her 7 years, maybe. I think she has been in every area of nursing that is out there, correct?
Yes.
So I think she's dealt with major illness patients, stroke, right, cancer, ALS, Alzheimer's, anything you can think of. And she is also a caregiver wife. And your husband's had 2 massive strokes, correct?
That's correct.
So Angelina, go ahead and lead us in our discussion. And if we have any comments or questions, we'll put them in the comment section.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to be here today. Intimacy after stroke is definitely not an easy conversation to have. I married my husband who had 2 massive strokes. So we're 13 years into his strokes. And his right side is affected, as well as his ability, his filters, they're gone. So he's not filtering what he says. And so there's outbursts of anger, sadness, recognition, recall. So we deal with all that. But he's very functional to have had 2 massive strokes. So we are blessed. But definitely intimacy was one of the things that was the greatest hurdle for us in the beginning. I think it came out of fear, because fear is one of the most common causes of not getting intimate. Fear that you're going to hurt them, or fear that they're going to have another stroke. And then there's also fatigue, just feeling too tired as a caregiver. And then, of course, your mate that had the stroke is also fatigued, just from having had a major life change. So the everyday things that we take for granted being able to do, they really aren't able to do it anymore. And emotionally, so there's a physiological and an emotional effect of the stroke on that patient, as well as you as the caregiver. You have those same emotions, and physically you're tired from doing all the work that they can't do anymore. So you have role reversal, and how do you put all that together and begin to function in a semi-normal way, since things are never going to be the same. The person that you married is not the same person that you're taking care of today after the stroke.
Correct.
That person doesn't exist anymore. So you have a new person that you got to learn all over again, with these physical limitations as well as with these emotional and psychological limitations. So now you're the caregiver wife. You're taking on the responsibility, because in many cases, the stroke, depending on which side and how much of the brain is affected, they may not be able to talk. They may not be able to feed themselves. They may need help bathing and dressing and walking, handling money. All those things may be difficult. And so now you're the caregiver wife, and all of that's on you. Now you're the caregiver. You are that person in charge of handling things, where the husband may have been that individual. So dealing with that, and then on top of it, how do you maintain a marriage? A marriage is very difficult in the most normal situation. So it becomes more difficult now that you have this life-changing event that is going to really dictate the rest of your lives. So first, I commend you for staying in your marriages, because divorce is high among individuals who have partners who've had life-changing events, just because of the physiological and emotional stress and being able to handle that. So this group is a good place for you all to be able to talk to each other and vent. So how do you begin intimacy? Intimacy isn't always sex. right? So intimacy sometimes is just cuddling and laying quietly and touching and feeling, and it has to be both parts because you're human. First thing has to be that desire. There has to be a desire to be intimate with your partner. And that may be affected by the person that's had the stroke because of that fear, because of that fatigue, or even because they just really don't understand like they used to. So it's a conversation that you got to have with your partner and be not afraid to have a very subject. And it could be body image is an issue for them, since if they have paralysis on one side, or it could be body sensations. So because they've had the stroke, there may be an increase in nerve sensation to that area. So it's painful. So one of the things I did is I talked to my husband, because I never even thought to ask him what hurts and what doesn't hurt. And so he said, well, it hurts sometimes because his stroke is on the right side of his arm and his leg, so he can't move those. And because of contractures or tightening of the muscles, he can't really move it anymore. And one of the things that was very difficult was that he had an opportunity to be able to have some function in that arm, but because of his emotional status and the pain, he wouldn't allow the therapist to do what they needed to do. And then he wouldn't allow me to do it as a caregiver because it was painful for him. So that area became contracted. And I had to remind myself, well, he's an adult making adult decisions, and I'm not responsible for where he is right now. I'm here to help. So separating myself from what he was going through and me being a caregiver, you're not the reason they had the stroke. That's the first thing. You're the caregiver. You're the caregiver in that situation. You didn't ask for the situation, just like they didn't ask for the stroke, but there you are together. So you want to regain some intimacy. First, have a conversation. Is there a desire? Do you have the desire as a caregiver? Or is it because you're tired and emotionally tired that you don't have that desire? Do they have the desire? And if they can, what are the limitations? You have to play around with positioning. Positioning is a big deal in intimacy. When you get to that point or that level where you're ready to resume sexual intercourse, intimacy position is huge because they're in pain. So before they may have taken the lead, now you may have to take the lead. So the one with the stronger may have to be the one to be on top because of the positioning, because it's uncomfortable any other kind of way. So find out what's comfortable, and it can be fun. Use pillows, prop, and those things. It can be fun to re-explore each other and find out what we're like now. Because guess what? You're not the same person you were the day before they had that stroke. You're not the same person that you were. You've changed, you've grown, and you've learned. So they have to get to know you all over again too, because your roles have changed so greatly. So find out and make it fun. Use pillows to support the weaker side of the body. Are they able to stand? Not able to? Can they turn on the weak side? Can they not turn on the weak side? How are they emotionally? What medications are they on? Are they on blood pressure medicine or for depression? Because those medicines can affect that ability to perform. It can hinder it. So timing out when you want to have intercourse. It may be before you take the medication. That's important, because once they take the medicine, they may not be able to achieve the goal that they're set out to achieve. So planning sexual intercourse in the morning when they're rested before they take their medicine and is an option to do. So think about that, and using the pillows. Don't be afraid to use pillows, and maybe manual or oral sensations is better for them. That might be a way to go if you're into that kind of thing and they're open to it. I know all these conversations, I can tell you I'm blushing now. So.
But Angelina, how would you handle the emotional and the mental part of, I mean, it's really hard to resume intimacy. The physical part
Right.
of it is a part of it, major
Right.
part of it. But the mental and the emotional part of it is
Yeah, you have to, men want to be desired, right? And they want you to look at them and see them like you saw them before. Do you look at them and do you see the stroke? Because one of the difficulties I had was when I looked at my husband, I saw the stroke. And because I saw the stroke, then all I could see was, I'm going to hurt him. He's going to have another stroke. This isn't going to work. But I had to learn how to look at the man that I married and that I love. He just has these limitations, but that desire, they need to feel the desire from you as a caregiver, that when you see them, and it's okay to say, I desire you, because body image is so huge, and their body image may have changed. It might be as much as speech, or it might be paralysis from the stroke, or weakness from the stroke. So it's okay to say, I desire you. Let them know that they are desired by you and you still desire them. And touch that side that is the stroke. Don't ignore it, because sometimes with the stroke, especially right side, they become less aware of their own body, and they may ignore the side that's a stroke. So you help them by recognizing this is all a part of you. So you touch that stroke side, you stroke that stroke side, and let them know that I still desire you. And so emotionally, you have outbursts, and there's sadness, there's happy, there's anger, and there's ugly things they say to you. And yes, those things hurt us as caregiver, but you have to learn to separate that from that man that you married, because that's really the stroke.
So what if you see him as a child, and to you that's not really sexy? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Because
how do you get turned on if you're always in caregiver mode?
Right. You got to separate. You got to separate that time as caregiver. Remember, that man is a man. So you have to always make him feel like he's the man of the relationship, that he's not a child. Yes, we take care of our children, but as wives, we take care of our husband in sickness and in health. So you have to separate that caregiver time. My husband used to separate nurse from wife, because as a wife, you're a caregiver to, as a nurse, you're a caregiver to everyone. But when you come home, you're
The wife.
So what wives do is we tell them how much we love them. We let them know how much they're desired. And yes, Ellen, it is true. But see, the stroke is, when they have stroke, some patients, is all about them and they're self-centered and their needs and their wants, that they ignore the caregiver and what the caregiver needs and the caregiver want. But you got to remember, the person that you are married to is an adult. So you got to talk to them like an adult and let them know what you need. If they don't know what you need, they can't make it. Will they remember it in the next 5 minutes? Maybe not. But for that moment, you've had the pleasure of saying, this is what I need, and this is where I am. Oftentimes as caregiver, we forget about ourselves, and we don't say what we need to the people we're taking care of. And especially when you're married to that person, how do you say? You got to tell them what you need, just like you did in the beginning. Before the stroke, they needed to know what you need to make you happy. They still need to know what you need to make you happy. Start the conversation by saying, I need you to process what I'm saying. You may get angry, but you need to hear me. And then I want you to think about it. So don't let their emotions stop you from getting what you need in the relationship, because you're there. Mm-hmm. I'm here with you, and I'm not going anywhere. So be rest assured. But I have to tell you that, baby, it's just not all about you all the time. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say it's not about you all the time. Right now, I'm tired. So if you need something right now, I'll give it to you right now. But take time to rest during that day. You got to take time. Don't be 24/7. Because remember, they're self-centered. It's all about me. I need my needs. And yes, you will get tired. And yes, you will say, I don't want to be with you intimately because I'm just too tired. It's just too frustrating. It's just too much. But if you start to step back and separate, because they don't need you 24/7, every minute of every day. If you got to dry them, dry them. If you got to feed them, feed them. You got to give them medicine, give them medicine. But they're still adults and they can sit while you take a break. And don't be afraid to take a break. Because sometimes my husband want me to run. I just say, you're going to have to wait a minute. I want to meet those needs, but right now I got to take care of me, or this isn't going to work. I'm going to be too tired. And who's going to take care of you when I'm too tired to do it? Again, I hear him sometimes, baby, go rest.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, in the next 5 minutes, can you come in? So,
Exactly.
right. So you got to look at it and learn how to laugh in what you've been given. So you've been given this journey that you didn't ask for. But let me tell you, each and every one of you were equipped to handle it, or you wouldn't be in it. So you got to learn to laugh at the silliness, because sometimes it's just silliness. They want you to pick things up off the floor. Can they pick it up? And I say, can you pick it up? Or they want you to just do this, do this, do this. Stop. I need you to stop for a minute. I'm taking 20 minutes just to rest. You're in a safe place. There's no harm going to come to you right now. So don't feel guilty if you take care of yourself. And that's what we do. And when we start feeling guilty, then we start to separate ourselves in the situation.
And we start to resent them after a while.
Exactly. And then they feel that. Even if they can't express it, they feel that resentment, because you got to think, they feel they've lost. There might be that helplessness, hopelessness that might come up because what they did the day before the stroke, they may not be able to do it today, right? Don't just assume the whole caregiver role, because if they have some ability, make them use it. My husband comes with his shirts and his ties and his shoelaces, and can you get that sock? And so I say, well, how do you do those things when I'm at work? That's how I need you to do it right now. And
Right.
it's sometimes being stern. It is being stern and stepping back and say, I'm just not just your caregiver, I am your wife. And you got to respect that. So.
And sometimes I know in my case, I enabled him sometimes.
Right.
Because I know that there's things that he could do. But I think it's just
right.
easier and quicker for me to do it.
Right. And then so you get
to go through it. Yeah.
Right. Right. So you give them the time to just do it. But if you always enabling them not to do it, then they're never going to do it. You know, and then don't let yourself get, walk around like we said, an old lady in the house, no makeup, house coat, rollers in your head because you're just so tired.
I'm gonna raise my hand on that one.
Right. You got to comb your hair. You got to put some clothes on and make yourself look beautiful. Beautiful for you, but also beautiful for what they see. So then that desire to be with you and near you changes.
Because I think just like we get so lost in the caregiver role that we forget we're the wife, I think sometimes they do too. We're in such a caregiver role that they see us as a caregiver and forget that we are their wives.
Right. You're trying to help them to have the most quality of life. They're not having any quality as long as you're doing all the work. And you're not having any quality of life. You're not. So those things that they can do, but are used to you doing for them, then say, this is not abuse. You're capable. Go ahead and do it. And I will come back and check on you. And where you can't, I will. And that's okay, because right now you guys aren't saying no. See, I've been in this for a while, so I say no. And I'm okay. If he won't do it, let him sit in it. So one of the first things you got to start doing is not enabling. So if you enable, then they feel disabled.
Right.
They stroke, but they can have a full functioning life within the limitations of their disease process. But if we enable them, then they are disabled. Learn how to say no and mean it. Don't say no around the corner to see what they're doing. Because what we're trying to get back to is husband and wife relationships and not caregiver and patient. Because you don't make love to your patient, but you will to your husband. So you want to get them to a functional level where it's not caregiver patient, but it's husband and wife sharing intimate moments.
Yeah, it is challenging.
It is very challenging, but you watch, pay attention to what they do. Know what side they have the stroke on. Usually on the left side of the brain, if they have the stroke there, is more about language and speaking. The right side is more about recognizing, your own body, but see what the limitations are. If they're affected, are their arms affected? Are the legs affected? Is it one side? If it's one side, I make my husband sign with, he's right-handed, but I make him sign everything with his left hand because that hand fully works. And I could just say to the people, oh, he can't because he had a stroke, so I got to do it. No, he can, even if it's an X. And so sometimes he get that, poor pitiful me, I wish you would do it for, wish you do it for me. And then it's like, no, but if I do it for you, then I'm enabling you to be disabled. Even if they make a mess when they eat, put a bib on them and let them make a mess when they eat. Don't just stand there and feed them because they make a mess, right? You just let them do what they can do within the limits, within their ability, within the limits of their disability. But don't disable them any more than what they're already disabled. Because right now, many of you probably don't leave the house and don't go and do nothing because you're there in and out. I go to work every day. I leave him at home by himself. He didn't have driver's license. We went back and got driver's license. Yes, his right side is paralyzed, but I quit driving him. You get licensed and drive yourself, and he does. You can't do a stick shift, but you can do an automatic. You can't drive fast, and you can't use that right leg, but he learned how to use the left side of his body to take over where his right side dropped off. And then, so even though I'm a caregiver, in some instances, I have to handle some things, but I make him handle most of the stuff himself, even though he's had the 2 massive strokes.
I'd like to pause for a moment to invite caregiver wives to join us in Wives Helping Wives. We're a private Facebook group of wives who are caring for our spouses because of illness or a tragic event. The group was created by wives for wives. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, now we have gotten closer as far as things outside of intimacy, like conversations,
Right.
like missing and stuff, because before we didn't spend a lot of time together, and now we're having. And I think we're relearning each other, because before we didn't have to learn each other because we didn't spend enough time with each other. So now we're learning things about each other that, ooh, I don't like that, or ooh, I love that.
Right. So that's right, because that guy that you're with now is not the same guy you were with before he had that stroke. And honestly, Belinda, you're not the same woman that you were before he had that stroke. So you've changed, and so you got to get to know him. So communication is very much key. For the resentment, you're right. When you're resentful, it's hard to be intimate because our emotions are tied into intimacy, how we're feeling. So if you make me feel bad, then I just really don't want to be with you in that way, like a man is with a woman. And they've gotten over it. So that's the other thing. 5 minutes, they over whatever it is that they done said, and they moved on to I love you, baby, and don't understand why you're still upset. So you have to go back and say, well, I'm upset because of what you said earlier. Maybe you don't remember what you said, but that's what upset me, and here's what it is. And then you just hold them accountable as much as you can within their ability to understand. We got to let them be men, not to take away that I'm the caregiver, I'm the provider. So I say things to my husband like, look what you did for us today. You got us this and you got us that. And, so that he know that you are still the man of this house, and I desire you as my husband, and I want everybody to know that you're my husband. So look what you did for us. I appreciate it. Even though I did all the physical work to get it done. But you're my husband, so you helped us get that, and I appreciate it. You got to be okay with doing that and holding them accountable, so they begin to recognize, maybe I shouldn't say that, but if the filter's gone, it's gone. The sweet things they used to say, baby, I want to make love to you, may not be, baby, I want to make love to you anymore.
No. Right. They call it what it is.
They're vulgar.
They call it what it
is.
The first time I heard that, I was like, what did you just say to me?
Right. Because that filter is gone, and maybe made you feel some kind of way the first time.
It did.
Right. But that filter is gone, and what comes up is what comes out. And But if they were around people, they would be the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly, I'm with my husband, I'm like, please don't talk like that to them. You can't talk to people that way. But holding him accountable is limited, you know, as to what you can do.
And I think what I do is make excuses for him, because I find myself so many times saying, well, it's like a disclaimer.
Right.
When he has a stroke, I start
Right.
off with that. He has a
Right.
stroke.
So
So
anything you're here, because of the stroke.
right.
Right.
And
then
then,
that just up the avenue for him to say whatever he want to say.
well, he can't understand why I'm saying that, because to
Right.
him, it's not because of the stroke. It's because I thought it, I wanted to say it, and I said it.
Because you're moving from caregiver to wife. You're going to shut that down. So first thing you guys need to work on enabling.
Yeah.
So it's a lot about accountability.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it is we
Right.
as wives enable them.
Right. And so after a while, you'll get out of the habit of enabling. If you don't, you guys are going to be so tired that you're not going to do it for long term. If you don't learn
I have a fear that if I'm not there for him, then if something happens, then I'm gonna feel guilty, you know, because he's overextending himself.
Right.
You know?
He's over. So you think if you leave him to do something on his own, he's gonna have another stroke?
And that's what I think sometimes, yeah, because it'll be too much of a strain. Because then the PBA kicks in, and then now he's crying, and he's frustrated. Yeah.
So you just have to handle him when he's in that frustration, but don't not let him do it. When your baby started walking, did you pick them up so they wouldn't learn to walk?
No.
Let them walk and fall until they got it, and they were. But let him do it, even if he gets frustrated. It's not your fault it wasn't your fault that he had the first stroke, and it won't be your fault if he has another stroke. See, my husband had one, and then he turned around and had another stroke. But none of that because of anybody else. Strokes are a result of lifelong decisions that we make. Statistics show that 80% of the strokes that occur are avoidable. But we have habits and behaviors that increase our risk for stroke, and we don't change those. So because you ask them to do something will not make them have another stroke. Just if you ask them to make love is not going to make them have another stroke. Making love is like climbing a 1 to 2 flights of stairs. That's how much energy it takes.
Okay.
So it's normal that your heartbeat increases, that your respiration increases doing sexual activity, but it will if you're walking too. So it's not going to cause them to have another stroke. And then just let them know that. I mean, that's not going to cause you to have another stroke. If you do this, you're not going to have another stroke. If you get mad at me today, but tomorrow you might be able to do it much easier. But if they never start doing it, they're never going to start doing it. You've been able them not to. And what's going to happen is you guys are going to be tired, too tired to be emotionally attached to the husband. You're going to be too tired. You're going to be emotionally drained and separated from your spouse because you're the caregiver 24/7.
And never the wife, yeah.
Taking advantage of you. But they're not taking advantage of you because you're doing it willingly. They're just letting you do it because you're not asking them to do it. So you want to move away from being the caregiver 24/7, jumping at their every beck and call. If they can feed themselves, put a bib on them. They have those bibs, those long bibs, or put a towel on them. Give them a spoon. If they can't hold the spoon, get a weighted spoon so that it provides more weight and they're able to stabilize it and hold it better. If they're left-handed and the struggle's on the left hand, then make them use the right. Because there's nothing wrong with that other half of the body. They're just because you don't require it.
If you don't use it, you lose it, correct?
You will lose it because and then, what you won't be able to get it back.
So that is a possibility that the
What's that?
longer that they wait to use whatever side is affected, that eventually the brain will not be able to connect to that side?
You talking about the stroke side?
Yeah.
Well, if they don't, they're gonna act it tight, and then they won't be able to use it because of the physiology of it. Because the brain that affected the stroke is what caused the impairment in the first place. So, did I lose you guys?
Can you see? I can see you.
Okay,
Are
good.
you
So,
back?
can you see me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the thing is, if they don't lose it, it'll atrophy or get small. And then they won't be able to, those muscles, and then they'll get tight. And then you'll see less and less of them that arm being stretched out or that leg, and it become more and more drawn up. I was reading someone post about their husband don't want to get out of bed because they're depressed. Then do they have the ability to get out of bed is number one. And are they on any antidepressants for that depression? Because depression is very common, depression is. But if they don't get out of bed, then you got more problems to worry about because they're going to be less mobile. There's a greater risk for skin breakdown. If they can't get out of bed on their own and they're saying they don't want to, get them up anyway. Because if you have a sick mind, then you act sick. But if you have a well mind, then you act well. So if you have them to get up, he has considerable, okay, but the nurse told us there's no limitation to the amount of time it takes to recover. No, there isn't any limitation. The recovery can be brief or it can be extended. It can be temporary or it can be permanent. But don't do anything to try to reverse or compensate for the loss, then it'll take a lot longer for them to recover to get to their maximum potential. So you just have to encourage. In some cases, if they don't want to get up, get up. And if instead of saying it's time to do your rehab, say let's go exercise, let's walk. Right? Because now it doesn't feel like therapy. It feels like, and you're not being a caregiver, but you're being a wife. Let's go walk. And
That's
go
a good
walk.
idea because I use that rehab. Let's
Right.
time for rehab. And then that
Right.
places me in the caregiver
Exactly.
role.
But husband and wife, they walk together all the time.
Right.
Right. Sometimes I'll just say to my husband, can you zip this? He only has the one hand. And so he has to do that for me to take care of me. Even though I probably could have zipped it myself, but I want him to do it because I want him to use his arms, figure it out to help me, to take care of me. So it's a little thing. Or something like, can you hold my hair while I get this? Something simple. So they know that you need them. Because right now, I'm sure most of those guys feel like you don't need them.
And he says that.
Right.
Yeah.
But so you got to do things to let him know that you need him. Because that's also going to help with the mood and that's going to improve intimacy. If they know that you need them, because before the stroke, you needed them. But now you're so into, let me take care of this, let me fix this, that we forget to let them know that we need them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's little things that they can do. Like I might say to him, can you brush my hair, please, for me? Because I just can't reach it. And yeah, then so he brushed it because now I need him. And not only that, he's touching me.
Okay.
And so that's that desire and that arousal in them. Is that because that's intimate, that's very intimate. So you think about some of those things. Can you unsnap my bra for me? Or you put on panties and bra and you go, how does this look, baby? Does this look good? So now you're just showing it off to them. So, those kind of things because you're trying to stimulate that desire to be intimate with them. And then you're letting them know, I desire you.
I know there's a few times I've gotten up and say, babe, dance with me. And he'll say, okay.
Because you're not a caregiver, you're being his wife.
Yeah.
Right. So don't be afraid to try new things. And it's really a new relationship. So you're exploring this relationship just like you did in the beginning to find out what each other enjoyed and what was good and what wasn't good. It's the same thing. Now you got to do it within the confines of their cognitive ability and also their physical ability. And there's no limitations because I look at my husband every day and I'm amazed. You know, that he goes out and he try to work to bring money to the house. And he's got a stroke, you know, and then, but he used that stroke too, believe me. He used it to get things. We'll go somewhere together and then he'll get his cane out, get to the front of the line or get the handicap parking or, you know, those kind of things. And then the women just like, oh, I'm so sorry because we're caregivers by nature.
Right.
If to even be our own husband, we're caregiver for anybody. That's just our nature to do that. And so the women just like, oh, come on up here, let me take you. And I'm like, And then sometimes I have to remind them he's not handicapped. He had a stroke, but he's not handicapped.
And then we feel invisible.
Right.
Because everybody is hovering over them and making a big deal about them. And you're standing there in pain from all the physical, you know, things you do, and you're mentally and emotionally tired, and no one even asks how you doing.
Right. That's true.
So you feel invisible. So then that plays into the intimacy as too.
Yep, it does. So you got to make it visible. My husband, when I go out with him, I don't hold his good side. I hold his stroke side. Because the whole reason I do that is because I want you to know I'm the side, I'm holding up this side. And not to be ignored by anybody. This side is held up because I'm standing right here.
Wow.
Right. So you got to make yourself visible. Don't take an invisible role. So I do that just so people know that this side is being held up by me. In the morning, I was the caregiver. The rest of the day, I was his wife. So when I got the initial stuff done, as far as bathing, dressing, grooming, medications, when I did that part, then I was no longer the caregiver. I was his wife at that point. So whatever he could do for himself, he did it the rest of the day. And I said, I'm your wife, not your caregiver. And you have to say that. I am your wife. I'm not your caregiver. No, this is not what wives do. I'm doing this because I love you. The one thing I know about dying is that before people die, they know they're dying. So he knows it, but he just might not express it because maybe he don't realize that you know it too, right? Because they don't want to hurt you or cause you any pain. And you're right. You got to look at all the losses. I wish that we had time so we could do the loss line. Because
you'll be back.
Sometimes I think we don't realize how many losses there are just because the stroke has happened. So if I asked you to write down, and you can even do this, you know, once we get offline, is from the day that he had the stroke, what have you lost? Think about what you've lost, because a lot of you've lost your independence. You're no longer independent. You just can't go and come as you will. You've lost your husband, the man that he was, and there's this new person that's there. So you got to know when to put up the caregiver and then bring out the wife. And that might be initially. So even if it's not a real hat, you know, you do an invisible hat. I'm wearing my caregiver hat. So right now, but you got to first determine what they can do for themselves. Because right now you're being caregiver for everything. And they may not need you for everything. And I'm sure that you're feeling, because I know I felt, I wished I could have taken it away so that he never had the stroke. But you can't.
Right.
So you got to let them function as much as they can so that you know exactly what you're needed for, so that you get some rest and you don't feel as tired.
Yeah, because I know when D came home, I was waiting on him hand and foot. I was running myself ragged. If he
Right.
wanted something, if he woke up at 3 in the morning and he was hungry, I was getting up to fix him something to eat at 3 in the morning.
Wow.
Because I thought that's what I had to do. And this was when
Right.
he first came home after rehab. I thought
Right.
that's what I needed to do.
And how long did it take you to realize that's not what you needed to do?
Not long.
Right. You know, because then it becomes, you don't want to set up any behaviors that then you got to reverse. So we all like to be taken care of, right? We do. And like to feel like we're being spoiled. So if I know if I wake up every morning at 3 o'clock and say I'm hungry and you jump up and run fix it, I just might wake up every day at 3 o'clock and say, or you can run fix it. Right. Or if I drop something and I say, and you run pick it up, and I see that every time I drop something, you run pick it up. When I drop it, I'm just going to expect you to come pick it up. But you're in your mind saying, why don't you pick that up? And it's because you haven't expected them to. So for caregivers, back to the loss line, I want you to write down so you can begin to process all the things that you lost. And then how do you take those losses and grieve them so that you can move forward in your relationship as husband and wife? Because unless you grieve the losses that you've lost, you'll still be in it. Because you'll look at him and say, oh man, I just feel so bad that he's right here. He can't use this, can't hug me like he used to. That's a loss. So if he can't hug you like he used to, how can he hug you now? Or maybe you do the hugging. And then get the arm that had a stroke and put it around you. Right? Because then it can still feel desire because you're helping him, but you're also helping yourself be close and intimate with them. And you're grieving the loss too. So think about everything. You gotta remember they've lost as much as you've lost, they've lost too. It is absolutely important that you face all the losses. And so, you know, conversation is the communication is, babe, I know you have lost a lot since you had this stroke. I can't begin to imagine how you feel inside but I do know how I feel watching you have lost it. So now you're recognizing that they've lost it. You open up the dialogue for communication about those losses. So together we can regain some of the things that we've lost if we do it together. So I'm going to ask you to do things for yourself that I know that you can do so that I'm not so tired and that you have regained some independence like you had before. And so it's just that honest, open, hard communication and then expecting them to do it.
Okay, so I was going to go ahead and I was going to say, anybody have any questions or comments before we let Angelina go? That was a good conversation for me. I learned a lot.
You know, we continually learn every day. And I'm going to tell you, it's not easy being in the positions that you are, whether the stroke was 1 day ago, 1 month, 5 years, or 13 years, or 20. You're still dealing with some of the same issues, but you learn how to adapt so that you are not suffering, so that you are not feeling resentful, so that you're not feeling depressed, so that you're not feeling misused and unappreciated. So stop enabling. That's the first thing. They had a stroke.
Did you see that last comment?
I did.
I'm gonna bring her in, ladies. She knows so much more than intimacy. This lady has a broad knowledge in the nursing industry with every kind of illness out there. She is a master speaker, a master teacher, and I love her. And this is just a portion of what she is capable of providing to this group in the way of knowledge, of stroke, of cancer, of ALS, of the mental, of the emotional, of the diet, of the medication, of the rehab. She's an excellent teacher. Like I said, I've been with her for 7 years, and she's awesome with grief. She's awesome with grief and all of that good stuff. We'll have her back. I'm gonna ring her in again.
So I just want you to walk away knowing that today I'm going to stop enabling so that they stop thinking they're disabled. They have limitations, but they're not disabled. So don't treat them like they're disabled. Start taking care of yourself. Learn how to adjust when you're the caregiver, because you leave your job after 5 o'clock and you go home to be a wife. So even in the house, you got to learn to leave that caregiver role, especially if they're able to do it, so that you can be the wife and enjoy being the wife, so that you can be intimate with your mate, so that you can hold hands, that you can cuddle, and then eventually get back to the sexual intercourse, which is very important to every marriage. Because it's hard enough when you don't have all the health conditions that are involved. So you want to get back to that place where you're both comfortable having sexual intercourse. Grief is a great topic. It is. So I guess that's all I have to say today. I think you're all brave and you're all experts because you're living it every day. There's no two cases that are exactly the same. You may see some similarities, but the man that you married was an individual thoughts and opinions and personalities, and those haven't gone away. So you are an expert at what it is that you're doing every day. So don't let anybody take that away from you, that you're strong and that you've done what a lot of people fail to be able to do, and that's to stay with the person after they had the stroke and endure, you know, the rude comments, the lack of participation in the relationship, and you carried the load. So
Hi, well, thank you, Angelina. This was good.
thank you for
We must do this again, darling.
Okay, I'd be happy to. Just give me something easier. So right now I'm all red and flushed.
Okay, we'll give you grief. How about that?
All right, that's a deal.
All right, bye, ladies. You guys have a good rest of your day. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.